Welcome to the Infidel, podcast of the damned, the weekly companion show of the Infidel News. Join us as we discuss this week's religious accounts from an atheist perspective. From Timbuktu to Toledo, from Kathmandu to Canada, from Bangalore to Bangladesh. We deplore, you deride. And here are your hosts, Dave and Nicole.
Hello, and welcome to show number 14 of the Infidel Podcast of the Damned. I'm your host, J. David Core, atheist, author, and acceptable alternative. And with me is my co-host, Nicole Samard. Hello, Nicole.
Hey, how's it going?
Also joining us today is one of our anchors, the Mudbrooker.
Hey, how you doing?
Today is Wednesday, December 10th, 2014, and we're going to be discussing the upcoming episodes of the Infidel News, which will run beginning Monday, December 15th, 2014. Show notes for all of our podcasts can be found at infidelpodcast.blogspot.com. So this is going to be our mid-season hiatus show. After this show, there won't be any Infidel news for a couple of weeks until after the beginning of the next year, and then we'll start up again in January.
Yep. From what I can, just looking at the calendar, I'm going to be, we won't be doing anything until our next show until the 14th of January.
Okay.
We want to give everybody enough time to get their jobs done.
Okay, that's good. This is all therefore also our big Christmas show, which is why we have three guys with white beards.
I used to look like Santa.
I don't think any of us are overly jolly, though.
No.
How do you get your jollies?
He gets it from some wild turkey, apparently.
Yeah. Well, seeing as how it's a holiday celebration, may as well have a drink.
That's cool. Yeah, I usually have a drink when I'm doing the show, but today I'm just having some water because I had a beer with dinner, so I'm good to go for a while.
You had a beer with dinner?
I know. A nice port. A Yuengling port. It was delicious.
Okay. I prefer ale.
I like ales and lagers and ports and stouts and black and tan and.
I like white beer.
I usually just stick to the whiskey.
That Weissen? That's Weissen in Germany, isn't it? White beer, Weissen.
Don't know.
I think that's what it. Yeah, Weissen is German for white beer.
I love white beer.
That's usually with wheat, right?
Yeah, but I usually it's not filtered. So that's why it's kind of a milky cloud thing to it.
Okay, all right. That sounds gross.
Oh no, it's good stuff.
Do you drink milk?
Are you guys ready for the first story?
You bet.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
26 years? Come on, 26 years is a lifetime. But I have faith in higher courts in Pakistan. This was the reaction expressed by Pakistani actress Veena Malik, who along with her husband, producer Asad Bashir Khan, and Mir Sheikh-ul-Rahman, CEO of the Geojang production group, were convicted by an anti-terrorism court on blasphemy charges. The allegations stem from a scene reenacting the wedding of a daughter of the Prophet Muhammad, which was filmed for a daytime television production earlier this year. Malik, who made the statement in Dubai, planned to return to Pakistan voluntarily to face the charges, which were issued in Giglit, a city in the Kashmir region which has been partly controlled by India, so decisions passed there are not considered valid by the rest of the Pakistani government. Many suspect that the charges are a punitive tit-for-tat by the military, which is upset with the network, which recently publicly blamed the military's Inter-Services Intelligence, ISI, spy agency of shooting one of their top journalists. The court also issued a fine of 1.5 million rupees in order the seizure of assets because the production, quote, ignited the sentiments of all the Muslims in the country, which cannot be taken lightly, and there is need to strictly curb such tendencies.
Yeah. Now, that video that they're being charged with, apparently what they did, as I understand it, it's kind of confusing. The various stories on it don't really seem to jibe with what happened. But the best I can piece together is there's some kind of an epic poem about the daughter of Muhammad's wedding, and they had a recitation of that poem over video of Malik's wedding. So it shows her being married, and then a recitation of a poem about the wedding of Muhammad's daughter. So that if that was if I was a Muslim and that was a video on my television, I would find it distasteful. I think that's a little bit crass to put like, that'd be like putting a poem about the Mary and Joseph's wedding, for example, over your own video of your own marriage.
Well, let's put it this way. To me, I saw a video today that made me think about this story as well. But it's Christians today complaining about the latest Family Guy, because it was it was disrespectful of Jesus and God.
Yeah, Glenn Beck did this. Did a big spiel about it on his radio show. He said that he basically said that it was like they crucified Jesus again.
Good.
Oh well, just too bad.
Yeah, too bad. That's just it. This. I mean, like I said, I would find it distasteful, but it's nobody deserves 26 years in prison over that. It's, you don't have the right not to be offended, as the expression goes.
Well, the thing is, though, from what I remember from the story, she won't be spending any time in jail. It's just, it's a local court, and they have absolutely no
they have
jurisdiction of, so it's just a show of power from the army or whatever, the local folks.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything is considered blasphemy with a lot of these Islamic countries. I mean, you can stretch it to cover just about anything they want to, so it's, like you say, it's probably a bit crass to use her own wedding, rather than doing a straight reenactment type of thing. But, they're so ridiculously over the top with a lot of these charges of blasphemy that, it's amazing that everybody hasn't been charged with blasphemy in Pakistan at one point.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you look up pictures of Malik herself, she is not the overly humble type, and she certainly does not walk around, in a hijab with that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
She is. How can I say?
She's hot stuff is what she's good looking girl.
Yeah, she does, and she doesn't hide it.
No. Yeah. Yeah. She should move to Dubai, someplace where it's a little bit more acceptable. Pakistan. I don't know why anybody like that stays in Pakistan. That's correct. Yeah,
but I think she's in Dubai right now.
I know. Well, that's what I mean. She's in Dubai, but she should just move there and stay there.
Yeah, I just stay put. To hell with it.
I saw a video of her having an argument with some imam who was saying that she was a very bad example, and she says, "Hey, I bring a lot of glory and a lot of I'm good for the image of the country, so don't you dare give me a hard time."
Yeah, I think I remember that from about a couple years ago. That video was popular. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
She's an interesting character.
Yeah, she's very, very interesting. I don't remember anything about the story about the army being accused of shooting their reporter, though. I don't remember ever seeing that story anywhere. I mean, it's not something we would cover because it's not religious, but that just seems like a story that would get more coverage internationally. If the Pakistani government is assassinating journalists, you'd think we'd hear about it.
Well, I haven't heard anything about that. This is the first time.
Yeah.
And I want to bring Christianity again in this, because this reminds me of a story about the Pope I read about either today or yesterday, where he's, a journalist, when he was flying back from Turkey, told him, I tried to get him to bash uh, Islam because of what's happening with the extremists and like ISIS, etc. And he says Fundis are just as bad as ISIS.
Uh-huh.
In the way they treat women, in the way they treat all sorts of things. And I was thinking, I get to agree with this pope more often than any other pope.
Yeah, but with the news that came out yesterday in the United States about the terrorism or the torture.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that being up in Canada? Did you hear about it? I know.
Oh, yes,
I'm sure
I
Monty
did.
heard about it. Okay, that report makes if you were an external observer, which I like you because you're not actually a U.S. citizen here. How is what the United States is doing was doing there under Bush any different than ISIS?
No different.
No different.
No different whatsoever. No different whatsoever. And you look at, for example, the picture of that woman, who with her Bible and her gun. It's the same thing as,
Yeah, a Muslim picture with a woman. There's a I know what you're talking about. There's a famous picture of a Christian girl. She was called Holly Hobby Lobby is her name, and she had a picture of her holding a gun and a Bible standing in front of an American flag. And then somebody found a picture of a Muslim terrorist, a woman who committed suicide, a suicide bomber. Before she died, took a picture of herself with an AK, a copy of the Quran in front of a Islamic flag. Same exact pose.
Exactly the same thing. So they are getting the way they treat women, the way they consider respecting God and being offended by things. They're the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's There's
whether they want to admit it or not, they are the same.
Fundamentalism is fundamentalism, if it's whether it's Christian, Islamic, or neocon.
Yeah, I haven't really looked into the report on the torture very much yet, but I mean, this sort of thing has always gone on in the intelligence agencies to some degree.
Yeah.
But under Bush, it got just so blatant and so obvious.
Yeah,
It's just ridiculous. And really, what are you going to achieve with holding some of these prisoners for 5, 6, 7 years, and torturing them the whole time? Right. If you haven't got anything out of them within the first month or so, you're not going to get anything useful. Even if you do get something after that, it's probably going to be so far out of date. I mean, what's he going to tell you where bin Laden was 9 years ago?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's one of the stories. One of the things from the report, there was like a lot of things that people have picked on, like the hummus enema was one of them that people were talking about. But the one that really got me was they beat a mentally challenged man for hours to try to get his family to talk. It wasn't even about him. It was And the thing about this is during this time, they got cover from like network entertainment, like in shows like 24, where they made it seem like this works, this kind of thing works. And there's a show now with Katherine Heigl where there's a guy who tortures people. What's that show called? That new Katherine Heigl show. I can't think of what it's called, but it's the same kind of crap. And people think Hollywood's all liberal, but they're covering this. They're giving cover for that.
And what I find very hypocritical is that they went after the Germans, for what they did during the Second World War. They went after everybody else around the world, but now that it's Americans doing it, now that it's Cheney who's behind this, can't do anything.
Oh, come on.
Mudbrooker has to step aside for a minute, apparently. Yeah.
Kill my video.
Okay.
Okay. The whole deal with the torture report coming out too. we're off topic from the original story, but when the report came out, Bush said basically that he didn't want to throw anybody under the bus. Well, he's one of the people that he doesn't want thrown under the bus because it's him too. It's like he's the top. He's where it stops. It's like, I didn't want to blame those, but then Obama's not doing anything either.
Nope.
So it's just, yeah, it's shameful. It's shameful. It's shameful.
Well, as I was saying, it's all the same all over the place, and the bad guys always get away with it. Actually, especially when it's the government.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, do you want to go ahead and start the next story, and we can pick up when he comes back?
Okay.
A law known as the Jewish Nationhood Bill has created quite a stir in Israel and abroad. The proposed legislation comes directly from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and has gone through several revisions, but in each iteration the basic premise is to standardize the nation-state of the Jewish people. Among those upset by the bill is Ahmed Tibi, an Arab Muslim Knesset member and leader of the political party Ta'al, known as the Arab Movement for Change. Criticizing the bill, which passed a preliminary cabinet vote on November 23rd, Tibi said the nationality bill is totally proof of what I said during the last decades, that in Israel is democratic towards Jews and Jewish towards Arabs. Among others who are unhappy with the bill is U.S.-based Jewish Anti-Defamation League. Kenneth Bandler, a league spokesman, said the proposed Jewish state bill is ill-conceived and ill-timed. Included in the list of those who have reservations about the proposal are the Reform and Conservative movements, the National Council of Jewish Women, and the Jewish Council for Public Affairs. Meanwhile, the Zionist Organization of America has expressed support for the bill. The bill also faces opposition within the Jewish contingent of the Knesset. Finance Minister Yair Lapid and Justice Minister Tzipi Livni oppose the bill so vehemently that it has brought the Israeli government to a tipping point. Many suspect that the legislative body may soon dissolve, and by the time this story goes to air, the government may well be in full-blown collapse.
Yeah, there you have the Israeli government doing something completely unnecessary. It's absolutely unnecessary, and knowing that they're going to tick off people. I just don't understand the reason for it.
That's supposed to be the only truly democratic country in the Middle East, and they go and ruin it with something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The conservative wing in Israel has always seems to be just bound and determined to provoke anybody they possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. The idea too that Israel is a democracy and a Jewish state is an oxymoron. I think Tibi actually said that it's an oxymoron to assume that you can have a Jewish state and a democracy. You can't. It's like trying to, any religion. You can't have a Hindu state and a democracy. You can't have a Buddhist state and a democracy. You can only have a secular state and a democracy. It's the only way it works.
Absolutely. And to tie it back with the previous story, that's something the fundies don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And there are fundies of every religion, including, whether it's Islamic, whether it's Christian, or whether it is, Jewish. You've got fundies, and they think that they can have their way, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I was so upset when I first read that story that I put something on my Facebook page, and as on my Twitter account too, I posted something about that because I just couldn't understand. It was unbelievable to me that somebody would go to that extent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're forcing out members of their own government and basically causing a collapse of the government itself. It's like the Republicans shutting down Congress over not getting their way. It's the same kind of it's the same kind of mentality.
Yep, this is really horrible.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic that a Jewish state would be passing racial purity laws, given the trouble they've had. They've had that sort of thing in the past.
Yeah. Is it a racial purity law or a religious purity law? Will they are converts recognized?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to look into the fine print on that one.
Yeah, but that's a splitting hairs. It's the same thing, whether it's
Well, they've got that thing where I think to get in, it's either through your mother or you have to go back, some generations to one of the tribes or something like that.
Yeah, we had a story a couple of years ago about some Ethiopians that are living in a refugee camp and trying to get into Israel, and they have to pass genetic testing in order to get into Israel, even though for generations they've been considered a Jewish group. I mean, culturally, religiously, in every sense, they're Jewish. Whether even if they're not, even if it turns out that they have 75% non-Jewish blood, they've lived Jewish lives. Why would they be denied access to Israel?
Yeah. Aren't they somewhere in North Africa, I believe?
Yeah,
I thought it was Ethiopia.
Ethiopia.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and there's been a Jewish community in that part of North Africa that's down the Arabian Peninsula, pretty much as long as there's been Jews. They've been down through Egypt into Ethiopia, both sides of the Red Sea. And so yeah, I mean, they could probably trace their ancestry farther back than most European Jews could, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Shall we go on to the third story?
Let's do it.
All right. As the Finnish parliament legalized same-sex marriage, the spiritual leader of the country's Lutherans, Archbishop Kari Makinen, gave a seal of approval and said he was rejoiced by the new legislation. This brought about the resignation of nearly 7,800 people from Finland's largest church. I know how much this day means for rainbow people and their loved ones and many others. I rejoice with my whole heart for them and with them, said the Archbishop. We are in the same situation as our neighboring Nordic churches. Our concept of marriage needs a fundamental examination. Speaking for myself, I think it's time for a reconsideration. As is the case with numerous European countries, Finnish churches are supported by taxes levied by the government. This means that 78% of the population pays these church taxes. Since a backlash was expected prior to Archbishop Makinen's declaration, a website facilitating people's resignation was set up in advance. Finland is the 12th European nation to recognize same-sex marriage.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I was glad to hear that. Now, in most of those Nordic countries, they're very atheistic.
Yep.
As far as population. So 7,800 people leaving the church over this may sound like it's a death knell for the church or a bad thing for the church, but I suspect that actually a lot of people will come back to the church over it too.
Well, it's just a temporary backlash. People will just wake up and come back to it. It doesn't matter. What I found interesting, well, at least for our readers, there are two interesting stats in there. Number one, 75% of, even if there are a lot of atheists, 75% of Finns are registered with that church. And number two, they don't tithe or anything like that. It's actually a tax based on your the government gets, from people based on their registration to a church or another, and that money is passed on then after that to the church itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that those were interesting tidbits that North Americans are not aware of.
Yeah, well, yeah, the idea that they have official churches in those countries is probably a historical anomaly for now. I don't think it's going to last, especially if more and more people end up leaving the church. It's happening in Australia right now, where they have official, like they have chaplains in the schools and stuff like that. But Australia is becoming more and more atheistic, and there's a lot more and more pushback against the chaplaincy. So we'll probably eventually start seeing pushback in the Nordic countries against the taxes and against the official status of the church and all of that.
Yeah, having an official state church seems to be the best way to get rid of a church.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, England, Scandinavian states, Germany, most of Europe, pretty much all of them have an official state religion.
Mhm.
And, a lot of them, I know Germany does for sure. And I think France might, but they collect church
I
tax.
don't think so. Not in France.
Not France?
No.
I know they do in Germany.
Yeah. France might as well. It's a de facto. It's a de facto
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, they got rid of every. Oh, what are they called? Everybody who wasn't Catholic, they got either killed them or kicked
Yeah.
them
Oh,
out.
yeah. Yeah. The Albigensian Crusades took care of that. That's a hard thing to say, by the way. Albigensian Crusades. Say it 3 times fast. I dare you.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Well,
But they killed a
Nicole
whole
might
bunch
be
of them.
able to know.
What's that?
Nicole might be able to say Abigensi and the Crusade. He's had years of practice with that French kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah. So the what do you call the Finns? Is that what you call Finnish people?
Yeah.
Finns.
Well, around here we call them Finlanders.
Finlanders.
Yeah.
What was that joke? There was a Monty Python joke about there was a TV show that came up with nicknames for people from different countries, and they were on Belgium, and they were trying to come up with a name for Belgians. And somebody suggested, let's don't call them anything, let's just ignore them. But anyway, yeah. But so the Finns. Recognizing that the church is in favor of this same-sex marriage was kind of interesting to me, that the archbishop of a church, even though it's Finland, as liberal as it may be there, that the archbishop of the church would just come right out and say, hey, we approve of this law. You're not going to see that in other parts of the world. It's just there.
Exactly, and that's why there is a story I think I'd like to cover in sometime next month. It's about a video. It's a made-for-TV special where an American preacher was invited to come and discover what religion is like in the Nordic countries.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really interesting, and it was quite a cultural shock to that minister, especially since at one point, he's talking to some ministers from I don't remember what church, and he's saying, "Isn't that terrible that your government has forced you guys to marry gays?" And they're looking at him like as if he grew a second head or a third head.
Yeah, and they had those bizarre collars on.
Yes, exactly.
They had these big white ruffly collars that were like a collapsed dog cone around their necks. It was weird, but I think he would have had culture shock in Pennsylvania, because he just didn't understand any kind of religious attitudes other than what he was exposed to in his home state.
Yeah.
He was a fish out of water no matter where he went.
Yep.
But what I didn't understand about that show, though, it was like an episode of something. But do they bring people from other countries to explore?
No, it's all Americans. It's the guy I'm subscribing to the producer's channel, and the thing is, it's Americans learning about Nordic cultures. For example, they had a police captain from the U.S. Finding out what it's like to be a policeman in Nordic countries.
Okay.
And that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So
yeah. Okay.
And that policeman was really shocked to find out that, for example, in one country, cops are walking around without guns. They have one gun and it's kept in the car. So he says, what's the point? If you're in a situation, you got to run back to your car to get your gun.
Yeah.
And actually, in that same country, one recently, one person was killed by a cop, and the police forces have even if they were in the right, have apologized for what they had to do.
Hmm. Yeah. So that's something you would never find in the United States. It's the exact opposite of it. But there was actually a case. I think it was last week where, and I don't remember where it was, but there was a case where an American cop choked a white kid to death and lost his job. And it got like it got. I'm surprised it didn't get more attention in the media because it was, you know, the exact same kind of situation as what they had in New York, where the cop choked somebody to death and they supported him, even though it was against it. It wasn't against the law for a cop to choke somebody out, but it's against policy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not the first time that cop has done that. Actually,
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think it was the fourth time.
In New York State, it actually is against the law for a cop to use a chokehold. But I think the cop that choked down the white kid, it was against policy, but it wasn't illegal. But yeah, it's to use a chokehold and cause. If you use the chokehold and don't cause any damage, it's a misdemeanor. If you choke somebody till they pass out, it's a Class D felony. And if you cause them permanent harm, it's like a Class B or Class A felony in New York. And
Even for a cop?
yeah, even for a cop.
Well, then how do you get off?
That's why they passed the law in the first place, is because there have been several instances of cops killing people with these chokeholds in New York.
Mhm.
And yeah, how the hell a grand jury let this guy walk when it has him on video committing a felony, even as an on-duty police officer? That was illegal, period. You
And
know,
the one who actually got in trouble is the guy who filmed the video.
Yeah, but he didn't get in trouble for that.
No, but
They-
the thing is, they because he was around watching, filming the video, the cops decided to investigate him. Otherwise, he would have not, nothing would have happened.
Mhm.
And they decided, okay, you're filming us. Let's search you. They had absolutely no reason to do it except for the fact that they were pissed off that he was filming them.
yeah, because they knew they were committing a felony. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's-
I said, I don't see how there couldn't have been riots over that in New York. So
Yeah.
far it's been fairly calm, but
Mhm.
yeah, I mean,
Actually, it's not riots, but they've been
protesting.
demonstrating for 6 days now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's one artist and his wife, a songwriter, and his wife, who's a model. They paid for some food trucks to go and feed the demonstrators.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They tried to shut down the Rockefeller tree lighting. It didn't work though, but they tried to. But there's actually a state right now. I forget which state it is, but there's a state right now where there's a law going to the governor's desk, which if he doesn't veto it, it'll be illegal to record the police.
wasn't that in Ohio fairly recently? There's a case about that went to the Supreme Court, and the court ruled that you can, in fact, videotape the police.
Mhm.
I think it might have been Ohio, Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
Eastern
Well, I used to be.
anyway, about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It
I was a photographer. I was a photographer for a local newspaper for a few years, and the one thing we were told is that anything that happens in public view is you can shoot it.
Yeah.
So no, I mean it doesn't matter what it is. If
Yeah.
if somebody's beating their wife, if somebody's stealing something, if the cops are making an arrest, whatever it is, if you can see it, you can shoot it.
Yeah, see, I think the gist of the case was, like in your case, you would have had press credentials as a
Mhm.
journalist. But the gist of the case is that it's not just the press that can do that; it's anybody with a camera, as long
Right.
as it's in public, like you say. If you can see it, you can film it, and
There's one
It
exception
won the
to that
case.
rule: children.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
that's and actually, I don't think that's even that's actually an exception. I think that if you're like let's say for example, I was a photographer and I saw somebody beating their child in public and I took pictures of it. If we put it in the paper, we would blur the kid's face and we wouldn't
Yeah.
use their name. But that's policy. That's not law.
Well, in Canada, it is law.
It might be law. It might be law in Canada, but it's not law. It's not the law in the states. In the states, you can take a picture of it, and it can be used as evidence in court that you took. This picture can be used as evidence, and the only reason that we blur it for the paper is for not what's the word I'm looking for? Where you don't want to be sued.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason that they blur it.
Well, let's put it this way: if you've got a parent who's running away from an abusive ex, and and is in hiding with their children, if you're going to post a picture of them with the kid, it's you're putting them in danger.
Right, and most newspapers. Well, I'm not going to say it used to be most newspapers. Nowadays, with Fox News journalism and the corner and all those things, you never know. But it used to be integrity, newspaper ethics you wouldn't publish that. But the ethics is still valid, though. I mean, you can lose any memberships in organizations that you're in, like inter newspaper organizations, like AP, etc. If you're violating journalistic ethics, they'll kick you out. But there's no legal standard.
Mm-hmm. And while we're talking about state laws and that kind of stuff, I thought we could discuss quickly today the fact that Kentucky decided that the Answering Genesis art park will not be getting any money after all because of their hiring practices.
Yeah, I after you mentioned that, I checked Facebook and I saw that the Thinking Atheist had posted something about it. Yeah, they that I'm surprised it took that long to make that decision. That should have just been like a done, as soon as they found out, no more funding.
Yeah.
It started with a complaint because of an ad they had for some computer staff, to do some computer work for graphics and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they put a requirement, to work for the art park itself. And then they applied to that their own rules as if you were going to work straight for Answering Genesis. And
Mm-hmm.
there was a complaint based on that, and that's how they lost everything.
Right. Well, how are you going to find an engineer who is also a young earther? Where are you going to find that guy?
Well, there must be at least one or two of them out there somewhere. They might already be working for Jerry Falwell's corporation somewhere, but you might have to do a little headhunting to get the guy. But they're out there somewhere.
Well, there are some. I know at least of a couple on YouTube.
Yeah. Well, they can have all the work.
Yes, exactly.
The ark's going to fall down because you can't believe in that sciencey math stuff.
Come on, Noah did it without that sciencey math stuff.
Yeah, a cubit. A cubit is a very specific measurement. As long as everybody has the same length of arm.
Yes. Well, a foot is based on one person's foot and not everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
There's a cathedral they ran into that problem. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, the master, these cathedrals will take 80, 90, 100 years to build in the Middle Ages. Well, the master builder that started it died partway through the project, and they were using his ruler as the official measurement. Well, they brought in a new master builder. He insisted that they use his ruler. Well, they would usually start these cathedrals at both ends and work towards the middle. Well, they got towards the middle, and you can see where things come together and they don't quite line up because one guy's foot was a half inch longer than the other guy's foot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can tell exactly where the one starts and one begins because everything's got a little jog to it. I know the name of it too, and I just can't. It was built in the 1300s, and anyway, but yeah, there's built to two different heights of the thing.
Yep. And now on to my Christian glitches.
Yeah.
And this Christian glitches, it involves Pastor Stephen Anderson. He's the one who did the interview last week with Kent Hovind.
So we got him twice in a row.
Yep, and this time he's talking about the fact that every Christian should own a gun. It's a duty of every Christian, at least of every Christian man, to own a gun.
I'm sure it was something sharp or something blunt and something that would hurt somebody, whatever it was. So anyway, I'm just showing you those scriptures to show you that Deuteronomy 23 kind of assumes that the children of Israel had weapons. And then Jesus is saying, hey, if you don't have one, go buy one. And again, I'm not telling you to go put yourself into financial straits and borrow money to go buy weapons. You know, I'm not necessarily even telling you to sell your garment and buy one, because honestly, you know, you can't really sell garments today for any amount of money unless you're wearing a mink coat. If you own a mink coat and you don't own a weapon, by all means, sell it and buy a shotgun. But otherwise, you know, just get something, and then you slowly upgrade your weapon. Start with the baseball bat, you know, you move up to the katana, you know, then you move up to, you know, the shotgun, you know, and then the bazooka. No, I'm just kidding. But, you know, you move up. I mean, a shotgun is a great home defense. The only downside of the shotgun is you can't really take it with you as easily as a handgun. But, you know, most of the time you just need it for home defense, because, you know, at night is when evil people do their thing at night. So anyway, be a protector, learn some basic fighting, learn, you know, just learn some, don't just be so metroed out that you can't even learn a little bit of fighting and learn a little bit of shooting, and just kind of man up a little bit. And it's going to be good for you anyway. Your wife's going to like you more anyway when you do that. And then you can be a better protector. And then she can feel safe, for thou art with her.
I love this choice of words, you know. Number one, the word that we haven't heard in a long time, metro. Don't be so metroed out.
Oh, is that what he said, metroed out? Oh,
yes.
Yeah, don't be such a metrosexual.
Yes.
Yeah, he... apparently when Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacekeepers," he thought he meant a gun, you know, because they use the euphemism.
Well, he was prophetic. He was talking about Wyatt Earp, you see.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Blessed is Wyatt Earp. Yeah.
I got a feeling this guy, when I see or hear someone who's so, you know, this, like, he's talking about metrosexuals. He's talking about manning out, impressing, you know, making your wife happier with you because you've got a gun. To me, it's like somebody who's very uncomfortable and unsure about his own sexuality.
Yeah, yeah. I have my girlfriend's perfectly happy with my one gun.
If
you know what I'm saying.
As long as you don't shoot too quick.
Yeah.
So I thought that, you know, that was an interesting story for this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just bought a new deer rifle here about a month and a half ago. So what does that say about me? That I'm a good Christian?
Yeah, you're a good Christian man.
Exactly.
Nice. Yeah, good guy.
And is your wife proud of you because you got a gun?
Yeah, it sits right next to hers. You know, she's...
Well, there's nothing wrong with owning guns, but there's nothing right. I mean, there's nothing essential about it either. You know, it doesn't make a person better or worse. And this is a common meme amongst the right wing in the United States. Is that they actually seem to think that you're not doing your job as a provider if you don't have a gun. Like you're being negligent if you don't have a gun.
Yeah, we live in the safest country in all of history, really, in the United States. And you got these idiots, you know, these open carry out who's got to go around with a AR-15 strap slung on their back because, you know, somebody might jump out and grab them. Well, I mean, Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you people?
Yeah.
And,
I mean,
you know, break-ins happen at night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Well, they do. They happen
all the time, and mostly when you're not home.
Yeah. If you're not home, they're going to come in. That's true. Go to work. Somebody break in your house. If they know the house is empty, they'll break in. Yeah.
Actually, the best time to break into somebody's house is during supper time, because
they're occupied.
it's occupied, the security system will be off. They'll be in the living room, the kitchen, the dining room, wherever. You slip in the bedroom window, that's where most valuables are going to be. You know, clear out the jewelry box. Usually people have their stuff in the second dresser drawer, you know, something like that. Grab the jewelry box, grab a couple other things. You're in and out in 2 minutes. They never know you were there. And yeah, a lot of the real, you know, there's a professional burglar did a little expose on them, you know, the best way to protect your house. So yeah, have your security system on, you know, have it set up, you know, so the doors and the windows are on separate circuits, but always have your window alarms on, because, you know, he went for years and years without ever getting caught and made millions of dollars ripping off houses doing exactly that. Supper time, he'd go around, sneak in the bedroom window, in and out in a minute and a half. You'd never know he was there. And, you know, you don't mess around grabbing TVs and stereos and shit like that. You go for jewelry, coins, guns, stuff that's easy to carry, easy to sell, and has a high value. And said, yeah, it's ridiculous. Most people think they're going to break in the middle of the night when you're sleeping. No, you know, do it when everybody's there.
Yeah. Well, I know if I was going to break into somebody's house, I would try to do it when nobody was there.
Yeah.
Less chance of getting caught at all. If you know that they're elsewhere, if you know that they went, that's why they watch people's Facebook statuses now. You know,
Yeah.
It says they're at Starbucks. Okay, it's a good time to go in their house now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So before we exit the show, a couple of things I wanted to mention, and then if there's anything you guys want to talk about. For one, anybody here see Jordan Klemper's piece on the Daily Show last night?
No.
He did a story. Apparently, the Freedom from Religion Foundation is suing a restaurant.
Oh yes, that one. Yes. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Because they give a discount for prayer. You get a 15% discount for prayer, and apparently, according to the way he did the article, the way he did the piece, they don't really discriminate like you would assume. You hear that and you just automatically assume that they're discriminating, but they aren't really discriminating, because if you they'll give you the discount for reflecting for 5 seconds, and atheists can reflect. So so Klemper was interviewing Barker about it, and Klemper, the guy who did the story, is an atheist, and he said to him, "Did you go and, you know, talk to them about this?" And they didn't. They didn't. So the Freedom from Religion Foundation came off looking really bad in this story, because they just kind of jumped the gun and assumed that there was discrimination going on, when really, in this particular case, it might not be the case.
Yeah.
You know, so, but it's a good.
Certainly made the FFRF look really bad in this case.
Yeah. Yeah, which is a shame, because they do a lot of good things. And Barker was saying some really crazy things about genocide. He was like trying to make some comparison. Isn't it worse if they kill 10 million people than if they kill 2 million people? And it's like, no, it's genocide. Genocide is genocide. And he was trying to make the analogy that it's just as bad to be discriminating a little bit as it is to be discriminating a lot, and it's not. Especially if, and in this particular case, it's not discrimination at all necessarily. So his analogy went nowhere. It was like a crazy analogy, and then he said he wasn't trying to make an analogy; he was trying to make a comparison.
Well, yes. He was not making a comparison. He was making an analogy.
Yeah, that's what it was.
It's the other way around.
Yeah. So
and then in the bit they said, those two words mean the same thing.
They do. They mean the same thing. Yeah. So he didn't represent well. It was really unfortunate. And I saw some people tweeting on Facebook about this is why I don't associate with atheists. You know, these are people who don't believe in God, but they don't want to be associated with atheists. It's like Neil deGrasse Tyson doesn't like being called an atheist because of the baggage. You know, so it's unfortunate when these kind of things, happen to us as a community.
I go by my mother's old rule. Her rule was don't put anybody on the pedestal because everybody's shit.
Exactly. And that's what happened. Yeah. Yeah. But I don't. I never joined American Atheists because I've personally don't like Madeline Murray O'Hare as a person. She wasn't a very nice person. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be. I don't want that. I don't need that association in my, you know, and I've admired the Freedom from Religion Foundation because I think that they do a little bit better job. But this kind of thing is, and the fact that, I mean, it's wrong to always to you know, make the generalization association, you know, the Freedom from Religion Foundation screwed up here, therefore they made us all look bad. They didn't make us all look bad. They made themselves look bad in that particular instance, and it doesn't undermine all the good that they've done. It's like when the American Civil Liberties Union defended the Nazis in Skokie. A lot of people left. Well, you can't have it one, you know, just because of one decision that they made, which actually they were right anyway. But even if they weren't right, it's just one decision.
Yeah. And before we go, I want Gat to show us his little friend there who just showed up.
You're getting entirely out of hand. Starting to chew on my leg. Shouldn't do that.
Let's see his paws. I want to see how big he's going to get.
Well, those are big paws.
Yeah, you got some trouble coming.
Oh, he'll be a dainty 250 pounds.
Cool. There you go.
Okay.
Okay. A little bit of a self promotion here before we go. I'm going to be starting another podcast, which will be short thriller mystery type stories by a variety of different independent publishers and writers. So if you're interested in that type of story, go ahead and be on the look. I'll note it in the Infidel blog page when that comes live, but it'll be coming up in the next couple of weeks here. During our hiatus, I'm going to post a couple of the stories to the feed that is the same feed that we use for this show. So if you subscribe to the RSS or to iTunes, you'll be able to hear those stories. If you just go to the webpage, you won't be bothered with them though, because they won't be there. So if you're interested, that's one way to get them, is subscribe.
All right.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else that you want to promote before we go off?
That's it.
Yeah, well, if we don't get any more volunteers for the Infidel podcast, the puppy gets it.
Oh, yeah. You mean for the news? Yeah. Yeah, we still need an anchor. Apparently, am I speaking out of turn to say that we have a new writer?
Yes, you're not talking out of turn. We are getting a new writer starting in January.
Yeah, but we still need an anchor. So,
yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't matter how good looking or ugly you are. So
Okay, just look at who we've got right now. We've got both.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too bad Jenny's so ugly, huh? Okay, anyhow. All righty, so that'll be all for today and for the next couple weeks. Please make sure that you subscribe to the Atheism TV channel. There you can watch the Infidel News for the Damned, where our talented team of writers and anchors present these and other stories not normally covered in the media. In the coming week, the Infidel will rerun today's stories and many more fascinating ones. You'll find Atheism TV at youtube.com/atheismtv. The Infidel Podcast of the Damned is a Nicole SD production. Nicole and I would like to recognize and say thank you to Truth Surge, who did the voiceover used in our intro and gave us permission to use music from his song Lied To as our opening theme. We'd also like to thank Muddy for participating in today's podcast. Thank you, Mr. Mudbrooker.
You're welcome.
Nicole's channel is Nicole SD and can be found at youtube.com/NICOLSD. I'm Gamut Man on YouTube, at Gamut Man on Twitter, and my blog and information on my books, including my nonfiction title, Believe It, You Know, an Atheist, as well as my mystery novels featuring the atheist detective Lupa Schwartz, can be accessed at tinyurl.com/lupalanding. While there, you can sign up to receive my newsletter. Signing up also entitles you to choose one free ebook title from my collection of 99-cent novellas. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.